I missed the bicep flare.
Good.
Okay. That's for, yeah. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another show here. We got Walker, we got me, Ben Richardson, founder of Not Normal, and we have a couple of good topics I really want to talk about because going forward, I think there's a couple of attributes that are really important to develop for success navigating a dynamic world.
Yeah.
Like memorizing facts, memorizing rules, have had has really profound limits. Like it can help you with a certain microcosm of experiences. And if you have rules and memorizing facts about that world, maybe a job or a school or a static world that doesn't change, like that can maybe help a little bit. But in a world where you're actively moving forward and things are changing, you need different attributes, which is not just memorization and rules. Would you agree with that, Walker?
I would agree. What are the attributes that we're talking about?
I think the two really powerful ones are critical thinking and creativity.
Yeah.
And I got a couple of videos I thought would kind of illustrate this a little bit. So you up for watching that?
Pull them up.
Okay, share the screen, and here we go. All right, we're gonna watch this first video. It's loud enough for you. Okay, ready?
Average student now is a D student. It used to be a C.
How are we getting more access to information and getting stupider?
Because it's simple. Because they took your critical thinking away earlier in these different demoralization steps. They took your ability to critically think away. They taught you how to believe. And then after you believe so much, they flooded you with information that you do not know how to dissect and digest. You cannot, and it's so much, you're overstimulated. It's information coming from everywhere. Now your attention span is too short for you to even be able to think about this stuff. They're hitting you with really short videos, and then they're changing things rapidly. Today it's an app, 2 weeks later it's a new app. The one that you was using 2 weeks before is old. They're doing this intentionally because now you don't stick long enough to process and understand information. The average.
Okay, that was kind of a fun video.
Yeah.
That
was surprisingly good.
Yeah, it was quite good. I don't actually know her, but I like she was saying in that particular video.
She has like a Memphis accent or something.
Yeah, it's great. There's quite a few topics actually that are covered, but one of them is like inability to focus because you're distracted and you haven't developed that discipline of like the discipline and the mental strength to actually focus on something long enough to think about it, to make it like to process it.
Yeah.
I think there's two things. One, we're always distracted, so we never have a chance to sit and think about it. And then also, if you do have a chance to sit and think about it, if you're not used to putting in that effort, you don't have that same ability.
No, yeah, you can't. You have no chance of finding the truth in all the information.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of a sad commentary. The average student is a D student. And I think that sounds reasonable to me. And I think that it's even
yes.
Yeah. And then if you have D students or C students relying on technology to do their thinking for them, then they're never even developing the ability to think and to use the technology as a lever to expand themselves. It's just you're atrophying your mental muscles because I'm thinking of like ChatGPT and other AI tools that like literally you're thinking less. It's not good. Anyways, I thought that was a fun video. Let me show you one from Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI. Can you see this window as well, Walker?
I can, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
I think critical thinking, creativity, the ability to figure out what other people want, the ability to have new ideas, that, in some sense, that'll be the most valuable skill of the future. If you think of a world where every one of us has a whole company worth of AI assistants that are doing tasks for us to help us express our vision and make things for other people and make these new things in the world, the most important thing then will be the quality of the ideas, the curation of the ideas, because AI can generate lots of great ideas, but you still need a human there to say this is the thing other people want. And also humans, I think, really care about the human behind something. So when I read a book that I really love, the first thing I want to do is go read about that author. And if an AI wrote that book, I think I'll somehow connect to it much less. Same thing when I look at a great piece of art, or if I am using some company's product, I want to know about the people that created that. So I think in both directions of humans knowing what other humans want and also humans caring about the humans behind something, that'll be a super important skill. And so I think learning that ability to create, come up with new ideas.
Okay, that's good. So
That's a little heartwarming to hear the CEO of OpenAI talking about opportunities that AI will bring.
right. I don't know when that was actually recorded. It may have been a few, cycles ago, but I still think that that holds true. The ability to kind of think critically, assess what's going on, and use AI as a kind of your orchestra, and you're the maestro of all these elements and GPTs that you want to employ. And
Yeah.
the ability to think critically, creatively, and understand what the human element is and what humans might want.
That's true. Yeah. I think
really-
AI will be able to do that too.
Yeah, I do think there's some of that too, for sure.
Yeah.
But I do resonate with the idea of kind of creativity and critical thinking, because it's the two skills you need to make anything new, right?
Yeah. If you want to have a chance, you better know how to do that.
That's how I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about, what does that mean then? Critical thinking and creativity. And then I want to show an example of a really cool one that I'll see if you can figure out what it is.
Okay.
So if we just look at creativity here, highlighted, the ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new, whether a new solution to a problem, a new method or device, or a new artistic object or form. That's kind of generic, but the idea is you're taking elements that exist, rearranging them to create a new synergy of
New
these.
idea or object or
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah. So I like that. And then critical thinking. Let me just put this placeholder here while we're going through this other stuff. Or stop sharing just for a second.
Yeah. How would you define critical thinking?
To me, critical thinking is to think critically, meaning you're thinking and you're trying to be unbiased. You're trying to be open-minded. You're trying to gather the information that is available. You're seeing the topic from multiple perspectives, not just your own. And you're trying to come to some conclusion or judgment about the topic or idea with as much unbiased input as you can. Like, we're all biased, but if you have to be open to information, right? You have to be open to new information. If you come to a conclusion and you are presented with other information that changes your original hypothesis or your opinion, you have to be open to changing that. Otherwise, you're not thinking critically. You're just thinking from your own perspective. And then there's another term that I really don't like, which is lived experience. And people
Say it again.
lived experience.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And they're frequently they'll use this as part of the way to assess what the truth is, because you're using your lived experience as part of the data set.
Yeah.
Really, what I think that's saying, that's a euphemism for ignorance. Like, I'm just going to use what I've seen and make
Yeah.
my own mind up based on that,
Yeah.
rather than I'm going to learn a bunch of things, search a bunch of things, get new information, analyze it, synthesize it, use logic and reasoning and come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Or I could just like, this is my lived experience, so that's the truth.
Yeah. I mean, in a world of truth, there's 8 billion eyes and you only have one of them.
Yeah.
And so to come to that universal truth, it's better not to just rely on your own,
Right. I think so. So, I'm going to save this diagram for just another minute or so, but so like what would be useful to develop if you agree with this hypothesis here that critical thinking and creativity are some of the most useful skills you can develop? How would one develop those things?
Well, creativity, I think, would be developed through being creative.
What
So
do
a
you
lot
mean
of
by
people,
what is that?
well, I was getting there. A lot of
Okay.
people have like creative outlets.
Yeah.
So they'll like journal or write or paint or draw. Um, I think those are good. I think brainstorming is also good because it forces you to think of solutions creatively.
Yep.
So I think those facets of attempting to be creative will lead to a more creative person.
I think that's true.
Is that how where you were going?
Well, I'm just open discussion here. I found also that that's really important, that ability to be unstructured. Like,
Yeah.
one thing I think is really great we do sometimes at church to keep the younger kids busy is like we'll play a little scribble game where you take a piece of paper, scribble on it, then you pass it to the person and they have to come up with, they make it into something,
Mm-hmm.
another figure like a duck or a horse or a unicorn. There's no rules. And for some
Yeah,
people, that is really hard.
it's true. Yeah.
In our family, we've kind of fostered that ability to think freely and like to be able to come up with something from very limited information.
Yeah.
But that's not normal really. It's kind of hard for people, I think. A lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Especially when people are uncertain of themselves too. Like they might see the duck, but they're like, yeah, I'm probably the only one who sees this. Yeah.
yeah, true. This is related. Make sure to help me get back to what else is important for our creativity, but based on this like idea of being creative and learning how to be creative. One time we were flying a kite, a 2-string kite, so you can steer it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're flying a 1-string kite, you just kind of like send it up, tie it down, and just like watch
Yeah,
it.
just watch it. Yeah.
It's kind of fun, especially for kids. But a 2-string, you steer it and you just maneuver it through the air and you're having fun. And I shared this with somebody one time and I gave them the kite. I'm not going to say who it is. I gave them the kite and they were just standing there. And I showed them how to steer it and they were just standing there like, so like, what's the point of this?
They weren't moving it at all.
They weren't only not moving it, they didn't even know why they were holding it.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like,
Yeah.
there's no purpose to
Yeah.
steering this around, except
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun and like playing with the wind and making shapes. I mean, that person was so not creative, very, very rigid thinker. And that just is like it kind of shows it highlights it.
Yeah.
So what else do you need to be creative? I think it also applies to critical thinking. But I come back to having a general knowledge of things really helps.
Yeah. That you can pull inspiration from.
Yeah, so let's just stick with like, yeah, creativity, okay? Or it applies to both, really. If you're completely, let's talk about critical thinking, one thing at a time. We're talking about focus, right?
Yeah.
How can you think critically if you don't have any experience in the world? You're kind of like a child.
Well, a child can't, so I would assume that you can't.
So what differentiates the mind of a child from an adult that can think critically?
Lived experience.
Touche. Yeah.
Um, yeah, adults just kind of they have like they understand the way the world operates, that they can cipher through information in a manner that leads them to patterns and reality, so they can decipher those things in other areas.
I think it's good. So like the way the world works, we could use words like, even if we just looked at kind of discrete subjects, even if you understood geography and where places are in relation to each other, that helps you if the thing you're analyzing and discussing has some relevance to how far it is from another thing, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So general knowledge actually does feed into your ability to think critically.
Yeah.
If you have a knowledge of history, like, well, let's leave it there. You know, which people influenced what other people, and how did this country get settled, or what's the bad blood in that place, or physics, basic understanding of physics and how things move and interact with each other. Basic ideas of like competency in math, right?
Yeah, those are all really important.
Your ability to think algebraically is very useful
Yeah.
because you're able to, you know, insert ideas for these different elements and use them interchangeably and see if those things can help actually lead to some sort of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, all these things give you reference points to like see if the idea that you're coming up with seems reasonable based on everything else that you know.
That's a good way to put it, is that they provide reference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not informing it directly necessarily.
yeah.
So if you're ignorantly unlearned, I think it would be difficult to think critically.
Yeah, I mean, you do a poor job at it. Yeah.
Yeah, there would definitely be a spectrum of the skill of thinking critically, right?
Yeah.
So if you're super young and uneducated, you would not have the same ability as someone who's older with more experience and really well read and educated and unbiased and can think from multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
That's a very different type of individual, right?
Yeah, it is.
So how do you get to that? If that's the most important skill, one of the most important skills, how do you get to that point? I think it's answered in the description of the person, but
Well, just through lots of general knowledge, which is lots of learning.
yeah, I think so. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never left the block that you grew up on, that also can be difficult. Like if you've never been, never
You're starting to
experienced,
sell the idea of lived experience quite a bit.
very used in a very different way. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And then all that stuff is similar for creativity, but with creativity, I think it takes like this more open mind. And I like this idea of creativity where you're taking unrelated ideas and bring them together in a new way, or
Yeah.
you're seeing unrelated things that exist on this different like domain of knowledge, but you're saying, oh, that spring, the way that spring works actually could, if I didn't use a spring, but I used some sort of other material to create the shock absorbing, then I could do this thing over here, and I would have something with less parts and it's less expensive, but I'd still get the results. And like, you're not even using a spring.
Yeah.
You saw how a spring was functioning over here, and you're applying that to this new thing, new idea.
Yeah.
Like that's really the essence of creativity, I think, and from designing the world you want to see.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
All right, you
Taking
want to for a test?
scene somewhere else and referencing it, I guess. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, ready for a test?
Sure. What's the
All right,
test?
I'm going to show you a diagram. You see if you could tell me, if you could tell what it is, and then we'll talk about why it's great.
Okay.
If you don't know, it's fine, but. And share the screen back again here real quick. Yeah, okay. Ready?
Yep.
Go.
I know exactly what that is. That's Benjamin Franklin's stove.
Oh my gosh, that's really good. I'm impressed you passed the flying colors.
Yeah.
How did you know that? That's great.
I read his autobiography and then I looked up pictures after I did that.
Okay, perfect. A well-educated man, young man. Very good, Walker.
Yep.
Do you remember what made this stove unique? I mean, before this stove, frequently they're just using a fireplace that's just open to the room with a chimney that goes straight up, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember anything about this and what made this better?
Um, I think was the idea was the smoke would be pulling itself out, right?
Mm-hmm. That's a big improvement for sure.
There was more to it though. I don't remember the other aspect. It was supposed to be hotter or something.
It's more efficient and it did radiate more heat. So I have another diagram. Great job on knowing what that is. I'm very impressed. This one here, different view of a similar diagram.
Yeah.
So the stove has the fire. Can you see the cursor in the window?
Yeah.
Okay. The stove is made of cast iron. There's a fire here, and there is a vent that comes from underneath that feeds the air into the fire. And also that this vent draws cooled air from outside under the fire and then up into this passageway of S-shaped tubes, and that heats up that air. It's right next
Yeah.
to the stove, but it's not filled with smoke. And then that air gets pushed out into the room.
Oh,
That's cool, right? It's this smokeless heat.
that is interesting. Yeah, that's cool.
And
I've
then
never seen that drawn out like that.
the smoke the fire gets fed from this vent, gets really hot, and cast iron is very heavy metal and it can hold a lot of heat. And when it gets hot, it radiates out in all these directions. And this is in the middle of the room, not just back into a fireplace. So it's radiating in four directions. And if it's a little farther, even out the back. So it's radiating in all directions, not just one way.
Yeah.
And then the smoke is, because of this kind of siphon effect, the logs are burned and then the smoke goes up, down, and is sucked out this chimney through this kind of siphon effect of the S-shaped chimney.
Yeah.
So
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Quite the improvement. And even after the fire is out, this is heating the house for probably a couple hours.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's well done.
Yeah. I think that was 1743 that was designed, and I couldn't find anything that was being used prior. There was probably an iteration between the fireplace and his potbelly stove, but yeah, I didn't see it. But anyway, this is huge improvement, huge improvement. So what attributes did Benjamin Franklin exhibit to create this thing?
Lots of critical and creative thinking.
I mean, you first, as far as like the critical thinking goes, like you first have to identify what the problem is and if there is a problem,
That's true. Yeah.
and then try to solve for the right problem. Like you could imagine with if you thought the problem was like, I don't know, your food doesn't cook well on an open flame.
Okay.
You might come up with a different solution than this. And it appears that the problem he was trying to solve for was like smoke in the house. I'm burning way too much fuel, and it doesn't actually get the house warm.
Yeah.
Have you ever sat by a stove? Remember in our first house? You sit by the stove or the fireplace, and like all you feel is a draft of the cold air rushing by you and then up the chimney. And you're barely feeling any of the heat coming from the fireplace.
Yeah, it's true. You have to get really close to the fire.
Yeah. Yeah. Super funny. So identifying the right problem is a big part of this. And then I don't know where he pulled the information from about how to. I mean, he's got a couple different ideas going on there.
I think during this time he was experimenting with the siphoning effect, but also thermodynamics. That was like his two, because he'd go through times where he'd experiment with different things, and I think that's what he was working on right now.
Right.
When he came to that.
So you could see that in two places, the chimney and with the little baffle for the clean air that comes out hot.
Yeah.
So super smart. So he took that idea of the water siphon probably, and then applied it to air, which is also a liquid, can act like a liquid in certain situations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was really cool example.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think? What do you think of those two attributes? Do you think that they're as important as I'm presenting here? And are they something that people can get better at, or do you disagree?
I think if you work inside of a system for a lot of your life, then it's less important, less of a necessity. Which some people want to do because it's easier. But if that's not for you, which I don't think it is for either of us, then you really better learn how to think critically and creatively. And I think you can improve that skill.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Walker, that was a great one. I like that. Appreciate your input. I'm impressed that you identify the Benjamin Franklin stuff. That was really good.
Yeah, I'm glad I got it.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we're gonna leave it there. So if you want to hang out with other not normals, thinking about stuff like this, creativity, critical thinking, how to navigate through a dynamic world successfully, give us a like, give us a follow, grab your free copy of the Not Normal magazine that comes out monthly, and
Yeah.
see you guys on the other side.
Adios.
Okay, thanks, Walker.
Yeah, of course.